Okay, we'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. We'll go ahead and we're just a couple of minutes behind. We apologize. It's 10:03. We'll go ahead and get started. Just a little bit late here, but I'd like to welcome everybody to the State Board of Education meeting here today, December 19th, in the boardroom of the Central High School building. Remind everyone at this point, if you have a cell phone, to please ensure that it's on silent so we don't have too many distractions. And a reminder that our board meetings, as always, are streamed live. Currently on YouTube. There's a website. If you go on our website, there's a link directly for those who would like to watch it live in the future. I've asked Mr. Suggs to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and Mrs. Altman to lead us in the invocation. Mr. Suggs.
All right. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
In prayer, please. Our Father, we thank you for a beautiful day. We thank you for this time of the year. We pray that you'll go with us as we go through this season, that we'll always be mindful of the gift that you've given us. We pray that you'll be with us as we deliberate today, that the decisions that we make will be beneficial to school districts and to our state as a whole. We thank you for the blessing of being able to serve. We thank you for the blessing of good health. We thank you for the blessing of living in this country, and we pray that we'll never take that for granted. Go with us now as we go through the holiday season, spending time with our family and our friends. We pray for safe travels. We pray for good health, and we pray that we'll always stay in the center of your will. In thy name we pray, amen.
Amen. Okay, you have before you the agenda and the minutes from the November 7th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Motions or second?
Second.
With a second, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? If so, I'll entertain a motion to do so now. Seeing none. Are there any items on the consent agenda that members would like to pull out for discussion? If so, I'll entertain a motion to do so now. Seeing none, then we'll move for final adoption of the agenda as presented. There needs a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hear none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right. Agenda is set as presented. Now we'll move into the recognition ceremony.
Good morning,
Morning.
Morning.
Dr. Dean, Dr. Wright, and board members. It is now my honor to present to you the board recognitions for the month of December. Today we honor 3 public schools earning national distinction for student achievement and the MDE December Employee of the Month. First, we will recognize the schools for exemplary high performance. Based on the U.S. Department of Education's definition, exemplary high-performing schools are among their state's highest achieving schools as measured by state assessments or nationally normed tests. The Mississippi schools selected in this category are Bayou View Elementary School, Gulfport School District, North Shore Elementary School, Rankin County School District, and Pineville Elementary School, Harrison County School District. The coveted National Blue Ribbon Schools Award affirms the hard work of educators, families, and communities in creating safe and welcoming schools where students master challenging and engaging content. The 2019 honorees were recognized last month at an award ceremony in Washington, D.C. Honorees, as I call the name of your school, please come forward and join Dr. Dean and Dr. Wright at the front of the room. Our first recognition is Bayou View Elementary in Gulfport. Bayou View serves a population of 681 students in grades K through 5. As an A-rated elementary school, the faculty is committed to rigor, relevance, and relationships. They accept all new students where they are academically and take them where they need to be and beyond. All students learn Mandarin in conjunction with their art classes. The faculty diligently differentiates instruction, that's mouthful, to meet each student's academic, social, and emotional needs, while teaching students the importance of maintaining grit and a positive mindset. This is the elementary school's second USDE National Blue Ribbon School recognition. It received the award in 2007, which demonstrates the school's unwavering dedication to high standards for academics, as well as a commitment to continue a legacy of excellence. Data-driven decisions ensure that each student grows academically and is inspired to become a problem solver, a lifelong learner, and a productive member of society. Congratulations to the Bayou View Elementary leadership, faculty, staff, and students on this national honor. You are welcome to make remarks.
I just want to say thank you for the recommendation, and it is a very rigorous process, but these teachers are just amazing, and they're committed to our students, and without the students' achievement and our support of our community, we would not have achieved this. And this is the second time Bayou Elementary School has received this prestigious honor, but it's the first time under my leadership, under a brand new set of teachers. And so I'm, thrilled for them that they're recognized for their hard work.
Our second school is North Shore Elementary in the Rankin County School District. School representatives, district representatives may come forward. North Shore Elementary exemplifies a love of learning in all that they do each day. One way this is accomplished is through positive behavior interventions and supports, or PBIS. PBIS changed the culture of the school and has changed the way that teachers address students and handle situations, as well as how they analyze data. PBIS has provided teachers with a skill set that helps them understand how to teach appropriate behaviors, as well as how to address students' behavioral needs that directly impact their academic progress. The implementation of PBIS paved the way for data-driven decision-making in the school. Data and diagnostic testing are used to help identify areas of weakness. Systems have been put in place that help teachers determine whether the students' needs are academic or behavioral. Teachers collaborate to find new ways to increase student growth. They reflect on their teaching and share successful methods for reaching students with one another. North Shore Elementary uses a data-driven approach to create student success with the ultimate goal of developing a love of learning in students. We congratulate all the teachers and leaders who have made a difference in the lives of students and celebrate this achievement with them. You may make remarks.
I hope it's okay. I wrote a few words down. Thank you all very much for having us. Thank you to MDE and thank you to the State Board for having us here today. We are so excited and honored to be named a National Blue Ribbon School, one of the highest honors that is bestowed to schools by the United States Department of Education. Being recognized as one of the top schools in the nation is such a great honor. The Blue Ribbon Award celebrates the ideas that all students, regardless of background, ability, or location, deserve an excellent education. This is the culture and mindset of every member of the North Shore family. Thank you to the Department of Education for nominating North Shore for this award. It is such a fulfilling feeling knowing that we are led by a department that has the same goals as each of us do, to provide our students with a world-class education system that gives our students the knowledge and skills to be successful in college and in the workplace, and to flourish as parents and citizens. Thank you to Dr. Townsend and to the Rankin County School District. We are truly blessed to be led by a superintendent who is a true instructional leader, who puts students first and supports each school, principal, teacher, and student 100%. We are blessed to be able to teach in Rankin County and to be able to provide our children with an opportunity to learn and grow in an environment where they are truly the priority. Today, I was able to bring 4 of our teachers with me. It is because of, I hope I don't get teary-eyed, excuse me. It is because of their hard work every day that our students are able to perform at such a level. They are a small sample of who we are at North Shore, of who I am fortunate to work with daily, and what I'm able to see inside and outside of the classroom. The time, hard work, effort, and love that they put in every day is second to none. Good is not enough. They set high expectations for themselves and for their students. And every year, with hard work, proven strategies, and the purest hearts, our teachers support their students and help them rise to their expectations. Every decision that they make is guided by the idea that they are doing what is best for our students. Not themselves, not what is easiest, but what is truly best for our boys and girls. Our students are truly blessed by the best educators in Mississippi, and so am I. Thank you for everything that you do every single day, and it is because of you that we are a National Blue Ribbon School.
Our third school receiving national attention is Pineville Elementary in the Harrison County School District. School representatives and district representatives, please come forward. For more than 100 years, Pineville Elementary has served a mostly rural community of predominantly low-income families. The school community is united in the effort to give children a strong educational foundation and confidence in themselves, because they know that when children believe in themselves, anything is possible. The school serves about 150 children, affording students extremely individualized attention. Faculty and staff have a thorough understanding of the students and their families, and they develop curriculum and activities to help them achieve academic success and emotional growth. The school encourages students' curiosity and model an enthusiasm for learning. For the past 5 years, the school has earned an A rating. Pineville Elementary sets high standards and prides itself on maintaining those standards. We congratulate the entire school community, staff, administrators, faculty, students, families on this national honor of your work. You're welcome to make remarks.
This honor is just, we've been so excited. It is a high honor. It's because of the parents and the students, the teachers that we have at our school. Our school district, the superintendent, is also all about good instruction. The teachers we have here, we have 2 teachers with us and our instructional literacy coach. It's about individualizing instruction for each student, the rigor, looking at data and making those decisions that are best for the student. So I came, I've been there 1.5 years now, so I was fortunate to come into a school that was already successful. Ms. Bosworth, the principal before me, so I'm just kind of taking that helm and going forward with what she has given me, and I appreciate the honor that was bestowed on Pineville. Ms. Bosworth, would you like to say something?
I just want to say that it was a clear collaboration between the teachers, the community, the parents, and the students, and growing that school culture that cultivated growth and achievement is what led that school to become a Blue Ribbon School. And again, we couldn't do it without the school board and without the state of Mississippi, and we appreciate you letting us be here.
Again, congratulations to all the honorees. Our final recognition of the day is the MDE Employee of the Month. Dr. LaShawna Fant, teacher at the Mississippi School for the Blind. Dr. Fant, please come forward. A 14-year teacher at the School for the Blind, Dr. Fant is a mentor, a leader, and demonstrates excellent poise in the line of duty. She enjoys seeking input from others and gives her colleagues credit for their hard work. She finds ways to incorporate teamwork and cooperation on all grade levels within the school for activities such as scheduling grade-appropriate field trips, communicating with stakeholders, and supervising students. Dr. Fant takes time to listen to students, peers, and colleagues, and she goes out of her way to encourage her colleagues each day. She promotes empathy, compassion, and understanding, and that's why she's considered the December Employee of the Month for loyalty and commitment. Congratulations, Dr. Fent. You are welcome to make remarks.
Good morning, everyone. It is my sincere honor to receive this award. I was raised in Houston, Mississippi, Chickasaw County, raised in a family and a community that base their lives on these character traits. I thank you all for what you're doing to stay actively involved at Mississippi School for the Blind. We have some precious gems out there. Again, thank you very much.
This concludes this month's board recognitions.
Thank you so much. Those are always incredible to see the good work that's going on across the state. The Blue Ribbon schools are amazing. I mean, we can't say enough about how difficult the process is and how competitive the process is. And so, congratulations again. I should have said on the outset, I believe Dr. Kelly is called in. Is that correct?
Dr. Kelly, are you on the
He's on,
phone?
I think.
I am on.
Okay.
All right,
My
very
apologies to you,
good.
sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Kelly. I apologize, but you are now recognized as being with us on the meeting. Yeah, and legal is asking you to please state your location.
I'm at 11397 Palm Valley Cove, Gulfport, Mississippi.
Okay, so with that, we'll move to the report of the state superintendent.
All right, very good. So the first thing I want to report on, attended the National Summit on Education Reform. That is Jeb Bush's foundation conference. And as always, it was well attended and lots of great breakout sessions. We got the thing that we started off with, which I was so pleased. Governor Bush always opens the summit with his remarks, and he gave a huge shout out to Mississippi and the progress that we've made. And so that really was a nice way to start the whole conference, with Mississippi being recognized by Governor Bush for our progress. We've met with our TAC team. Also, Dr. Domaleski is working with our accountability task force, as you had asked, to determine what the impact would be on the accountability system if we eliminated the U.S. history exam. And so that task force has met once. I believe they're trying to meet again, and this will either come back to you January, hopefully, and if not, no later than February. They've asked for some impact data to be run. I have been on Paul Gallo's show now 2 months in a row, so which is always good. It's always a good time to share all the good news, and that was really the purpose of our show this week, was really just shouting out all the good things about Mississippi. And board members, in your folder, I've included some really neat articles for you too. On the left-hand side, SREB put out an opinion page that went to just everybody that's on their listserv, called 4 Ways Mississippi is Teaching More Children to Read Well. Anchorage, Alaska, their daily news is recognizing Mississippi's hard work. And last but not least, the New York Times. Mississippi made the New York Times. So I got to say, that was a really exciting moment for me to know that, to be recognized by a national newspaper such as this in such a fine way. I started my morning with all of our literacy coaches, and I can't tell you what a great group of people that is. You've got well over 80 people who are out there doing the hard work each and every day in schools that are struggling, with teachers and students that are struggling. And so lots of success there, a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of hard work. I also wanted to update you on the Wayne County issue. We, as you know, had advanced our audit as well as the state auditor's audit of Wayne County. The state auditor had come in and expressed some real concerns around the financial status of Wayne County. We had concerns as well through our audit. So we advanced that to the Commission on School Accreditation this past Monday, I guess, and asked them to take a look at it to see if a state of emergency needed to be declared. They did not do that. So we now have to, per state law, assign a financial advisor to Wayne County. Wayne County is several years in arrears, if you will, on audits that should have been done on a regular basis. I believe they've been late on 5 of the past 5 years. They've been on probation every year since then as well for their finances. So Dr. Gavin will be the temporary financial advisor until we can hire, and that is on your consent agenda, the permission to hire a financial advisor for Wayne County. But I wanted to bring that to you as well. And last but not least, I have been all over the state right now. I did my tour on the coast and loved every minute of that. But this past time, I was up in the Northeast and the Northwest. So saw parts of the state. What did somebody say to me? You were as far north as you could be without being in Tennessee, and you were as far east as you could be without being in Alabama. So that kind of gives you an idea of where we were. But we went to Alcorn for the first time, Tishomingo, Boonville, Lafayette, Oxford, and we finished last Friday in DeSoto. So we have 3 more to do in January. And I got to tell you, and thanks to Dr. Elam, she attended both Lafayette and Oxford's. And it's so neat to see how the communities and the superintendents put these events together. It says an awful lot about the community itself. The community always turns out for these events, and kids and mascots and bands and madrigals. I mean, you name it. And if you ever get a chance to go to one of these, I know Buddy's been to every single one, obviously, at his school district. That's quite the affair, I might say, at Rankin County. So we're Sue. Yes. Hats off. Yes, indeed. But it's a great way to celebrate children and teachers and leaders who work so hard on behalf of our children day in and day out. As I've said to so many people, and I can't say it enough, this is a wonderful time to be in Mississippi and a wonderful time to be proud of our state, proud of our teachers, proud of our leaders, and proud of our students. We're on a high, and we are in the nation's eye because of all the hard work. You saw 3 amazing schools this morning, and there's lots of amazing schools that are out there doing this work every day. So it's exciting. I tell everybody that's the fun part of the job is being out helping everybody celebrate. Our spotlight today is on 2 of our initiatives that we have launched to try to help with the teacher shortage. We've got to get more teachers obviously prepared. So we're going to talk today and show you some video on the teacher residency program and the performance-based licensure program. Both of these programs were kind enough to be funded by Kellogg to the tune of $4.1 million, huge partner for us. And the teacher residency program, the essence of that is they pay the tuition of teacher candidates, and then they place them in a classroom with a national board certified teacher. So that gives them a chance to really learn from the best and also not have to worry about the tuition part of it. And that's for 2 years. And the performance-based licensure pilot works with teachers who have proven to be effective in the classroom but have not yet been licensed. So you're going to hear more about this in our video, but I want to recognize the members of our MDE team that work so hard at doing this work. So Dr. Murphy is our Executive Director of the Office of Teaching and Leading. Cortez Moss is the Director of Educator Effectiveness and Talent Acquisition. Beth Laughlin is the Assistant Director of Educator Effectiveness. Courtney Van Cleve is the Director of Innovative Programs, and Crystal Cormack is our Director of Educator License. So thank you to those folks, and if you'll start the video.
In 2018, the Mississippi Department of Education launched an initiative to increase teacher diversity and effectiveness through 2 pilot programs, the Mississippi Teacher Residency and Performance-Based Licensure. Both pilot programs are funded by a $4.1 million grant from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation and sit at the cutting edge of teacher workforce development.
The Mississippi Teacher Residency Program and the Performance-Based Licensure Program, they are directly impacting children because they are putting qualified individuals in front of them, people who have a track record in teaching, people who can get it done, people who care about them, and they're able to see the results. And so while they might not have passed the requirements, they are living proof, and our children's results are living proof that they are quality teachers.
When I was younger, I always said I wanted to be a vet. From the time I could say vet, I was going to be a veterinarian. I decided to take the route of early childhood education to pay my way through veterinarian school, get a job, pay my way, and I fell in love with it. I absolutely fell in love with being a teacher, learning how the mind of a child works, learning the psychological background to why we teach the way we teach and do the things we do. I first became aware of the Mississippi Teacher Residency Program through a mass email that was sent out through Jackson Public School districts. I looked into it, I applied, submitted, and thankfully I am now in the program.
My passion is just kids and also giving them the insight that I wish I had at their age. What I always try to do is inspire them to be something that people say they can't be. My second grade teacher is what motivated me to believe that I was a good student, believe that I was more than what people said I was, and that kind of sparked the interest with me of wanting to become a teacher.
The things that I love about teaching are growing students, knowing that I can advance them to the next level, and also knowing that they're in a happy place when they're at school. PBL is great because I've had some test anxieties, and knowing that I have some people just like me in the workshops that we go to really helped me with going on to take the test actually. Every single year, I grow each and every one of my students. Whether it's 75%, 80% proficient, every little growth counts. If I grow a student from one level to the next, then I know I've done my job.
I am given the opportunity that many won't have. Only a few will get the opportunity of actually having somebody believing in you by paying for your schooling, paying for your tests, and providing you with great mentors or great people to put you around to help get you where you need to get to. I believe the ultimate goal at the end of the day is putting in the right educators and with the students that need those people.
Laying that foundation here in elementary school will get them to their career, or that being a entrepreneur or that basketball player or that doctor. So we as teachers lay the foundation for other professionals.
These programs show a commitment to equity in our state, particularly here in the Mississippi Delta, where the teacher shortage is really high. Oftentimes we're looked at as an area that doesn't have what it needs to be successful. And so these programs show a strong commitment to giving kids teachers. Our children need adequate teachers, and that's what the teacher residency and the performance-based licensure pilot are doing for our students. Again, these are areas that are largely African-American communities, and they just show that if you give people what they need, they'll get the job done.
Very good. I wanted you to know our first cohort of teacher residents, 35 we have, in 4 districts, Jackson Public Schools, Gulfport, Ocean Springs, and Sunflower. And we have 73 performance-based licensure candidates in 8 districts: Clarksdale, Clarksdale Collegiate, Greenwood LaFleur, the Achievement School District, Quitman County, Sunflower County, Tunica, and Jackson Public Schools. So we're very excited about this. This is cutting edge, and we're excited and very proud of the work that the Office of Teaching and Leading is doing in this. And thank you all so much for what you've done. We appreciate it. And that concludes my presentation.
All right, now we'll move to the report of the chair. In Dr. Wright's comments, she mentioned a few of the accolades that the state's receiving, and I hope that that message isn't getting old to you, because we're going to be talking a lot more about it, and be persistent in that messaging, because this really is a paradigm shifting moment, I believe, in the education culture not only for educators and those that are, in the operations day in and day out, but for parents and business leaders and citizens at large. And that's the message that we intend to keep representing. And, like I said, so kind of to that, I received a nice card from a lady who I actually met at one of our NASB meetings this past summer, Joyce Rankin, who is with the Colorado State Board of Education. And I just would like to read it real quick. And it might take a minute to write a handwritten note. I think it's worth sharing. So it says, Dr. Jason Dean and the State Board of Education, congratulations on your great job with reading instruction in the state of Mississippi. I've been following your state and even tuning in to your board meetings. Your NAEP scores for fourth grade reading have shown great progress if you compare it longitudinally. I wanted to write to let you know that the leadership of the State Board and Legislature deserve a huge congratulations. Your work and the work of teachers, parents, and students are being noticed, not only throughout Mississippi, but throughout the nation. Thank you and congratulations, Joyce Rankin. So just one more, example of how people are paying attention, and the work that you're doing and that everyone's doing, it matters, and it's being noticed. So thank you, Ms. Rankin, for sharing those comments with us. Also want to recognize Mr. Jamil. He's been accepted. He's going to have a busy summer. I want you to listen to this. He's been. That's the thing about cutting yards and going to the pool, chilling during the summer. Mr. Jamil has been accepted to the Mississippi Governor's School this summer, which begin June 2020. In addition, Omar has been accepted to the Stanford Summer Program with a Silicon Valley internship. So congratulations on that. Why don't you give us just a couple of sentences on what that exactly means?
So our Mississippi Governor's School program, I'll be studying at the Mississippi University for Women, and that'll take place over 2 to 3 weeks, and I'll just be studying a college course underneath the professors there. And then I'll have to leave a little bit early for that to go to Stanford over in California, where I'll be studying 8 credits, much like I did at Harvard, and I'll stay there for a month. And under the Silicon Valley program, I will be under CEOs of Silicon Valley experts, and we'll do a moonshot project over my couple weeks there and present it to Stanford to just try to solve some global issues. And I was really blessed to be
Some
really
global
blessed.
issues.
Go ahead and explain that in regular language.
It's just a blessing to keep on getting accepted into these programs and just to have more of a chance to explore colleges across the country and just see maybe where I want to go and what I want to do with my life and where I'll be best suited for to make an impact on this country. So
Awesome.
Really glad to be a part of that.
Thank you for sharing that.
Proud of you.
And again, it just goes to show, students in Mississippi, Mississippi's public schools, can compete with anybody in the nation for the highest level programs. And we look forward to August, September report back on how that goes. So previously, we've highlighted Ms. Dean's accolades in academics and athletics, and you just heard Mr. Jamil. One of the issues I don't want to say struggle with, but I've really recognized we have an amazing opportunity here to hear from our students, and we kind of thought through, what's a way to kind of engage them. They're free to comment, as we go through all these issues. Just jump in wherever you want to, but we thought it'd be, maybe a way to sort of grease the skids is to set aside a special part of the agenda and ask them to do a brief update kind of on issues that they want to talk about. And so as I think many of you will remember, Dr. Wright recently put together a student advisory council in which Mr. Jamil, Ms. Dean are part of. And so I think that's the nature of your report. So we'll move into that now, the report from our student representatives. The floor is yours.
The Student Advisory Council met last month for the first time. Shelby and I introduced the purpose of the council as well as our positions on the State Board of Education and how we connect with one another. The purpose of the council is to connect student voices across a broader spectrum than what Shelby and I can solely offer. We discuss many issues affecting the lives of students, teachers, and administrators across the state of Mississippi. And other topics discussed, Shelby and I bring to the Board of Education the most relevant concerns we heard, as well as the knowledge and positives gained from the meeting.
Our council found the teacher shortage occurring across the state of Mississippi to be troubling. Students spoke anecdotes of their troubles concerning lack of teachers in their schools. Many believe that the deficit of teachers is hurting their ability to remain competitive to colleges and careers outside of high school, and that there are scarce numbers of teachers who can instruct AP classes and similarly difficult courses. Without the ability to take these classes, the Student Advisory Council fears that our Mississippi students will be discarded by colleges looking for other students with more appealing transcripts.
A vast majority of students on our council decided that we would like to see more preparation over materials concerning the ACT, SAT, PSAT, and other similarly regarded tests. By shifting to the realm where learning, practicing, and mastering these tests becomes more commonplace in the classroom, Mississippi students provide a much more compelling argument to colleges nationwide as to why they should be accepted. Additionally, an increase in focus to these tests would deductively guarantee that our students gain more scholarships based on college examination scores, and an increase in scores proportionally impacts our accountability model points gained. Furthermore, it is a hope that such avenues of teaching will attract more job opportunities in schools for aspiring teachers to flock to, thereby aiding in our teacher shortage.
On that note, it is also important to note that our Student Advisory Council desired a surge in college preparation and career readiness. Even beyond that of the classroom instruction and elective courses offered, we students still suffer in our upperclassmen years as we tackle scholarship opportunities and college applications that we feel unprepared for by our past years of schooling. In no way were we taught how to properly advocate for ourselves through our Common Apps, nor how we should decide which college, university, or trade school is right for our major or career.
In our meeting, a majority of the topics discussed boiled down to legislation at the local level. Therefore, we propose the idea that our State Board of Education should manifest within our local boards of education the addition of state student representatives. Much like Shelby and I, these student representatives will serve as student voices in issues that affect our lives. However, these student representatives will be able to tackle issues that are unique and prevalent in their own districts, issues that statewide solutions are not viable for. These include class numerical weightings, school scheduling abilities, budgeting, and the likes. It'd be a hope that such student representatives can learn how the education system truly works, much like Shelby and I have been blessed to, and share with others how we can make a difference towards the better. As with our tenure under the State Board, local student representatives will make a difference in the representation of all students across the state of Mississippi and making for a greater education system for the greater good.
Finally, a prevalent issue discussed in our Student Advisory Council meeting covered student safety and well-being. Almost unanimously, the council decided that schools need to institute an increase in situational drills. Fire, tornado, and safety threats will not always occur at the beginning of class on planned days. However difficult it may be, we need to practice drills at rare time intervals, in between classes, during lunch periods. Only then is a school allowed to say that it was truly prepared for a situation concerning any threat of any nature.
Our Student Advisory Council will meet again at the beginning of 2020 to discuss more issues affecting our education system, as well as how to tackle the issues stated above from a student perspective. However, I would also like to note that our council discussed many of the positive aspects of our education system. We recognize the hard work done by the TeachMS program, and we deliberated on the positive slope and test scores across the state and much more. We cannot wait for our next meeting, and we hope to do as much as we can for the future of Mississippi education. It is amazing what a group of bright, like-minded students can achieve, and I cannot wait for our council to reflect those ideals.
Awesome.
Very, very good. You asked for a report.
Exactly.
That's terrific.
There's some joke about, not asking for longer lunch times and PE, these are real substantive. I just want to repeat them back because one thing I'm also, thoughtful of is this isn't just, okay, nice, good report, that was nice. I think that when they meet again in 2020, we should be prepared as the department to be able to respond back, to what their concerns were and say, we heard you. So let me repeat those back. And I think a lot of these are very substantive and actionable, like local boards having student representatives. That's, something we can't require, but certainly we can promote it and, put that out there to find out. I don't know, there might be some that already do, but we could certainly, find that out and encourage them to do that. I think that's a brilliant suggestion. On the teacher shortage, again, pretty clear cut there. I think we'll talk in a minute on our legislative committee on some of the specific things we're doing around that. ACT prep, one of our first reports are going to be on the spring 2019 ACT and other PSAT. I heard it's not just ACT. Having prep materials and sort of related is the college preparation, how to sell yourself. I think that's a really good way to put that. For scholarships, for college applications to go out there and take what's available. Student safety drills, heard that, situational drills. That's really encouraging to hear because as most people know, we had legislation this year that required for the first time active shooter drills. And to hear kind of back from students about the reaction to that, I think is pretty interesting. I think there's a lot of people who don't know what the reaction is. So thank you for that. And I'll ask, the department and staff to take those recommendations and in their next meeting at the beginning of 2020, which I guess is next year, 2 weeks. When are y'all meeting?
I believe it's the.
I was just trying to find it on my calendar.
Is it
Patrice, do you
January,
know-
February?
I believe it's
Patrice-
February.
February?
Okay. Well, maybe in our February. Okay, so that'll be before our February meeting. Maybe we can, talk about how. And I'm saying this directly to y'all. Like, we're hearing and we're responding, and it's not just talk. And I think as we move forward, this is you're part of the agenda to develop as you see fit. So as you identify issues that you want to drill down into and get a response from us, let's get after it. So great job, guys.
February 21st.
Okay, so maybe we'll do it in
February
the, in the March meeting then.
Yeah. And Omar, could you email, or Shelby, one of you, could you email that to me so that I've got all of your notes to make sure we cover it? Thank you.
Great job.
Yep.
Okay, we'll move on to our subcommittee meetings, active month for subcommittee meetings. First is academic achievement. Mrs. Altman.
Well, the Academic Achievement Committee met yesterday, Dr. Elam and I, and along with Dr. Oakley. And Dr. Oakley gave us an update that about still receiving contacts from other states about the NAEP scores and all of our results. He also informed us that CCSSO is hosting a literacy summit in January, and Dr. Wright will be featured there, sharing Mississippi's story and telling about the good work that districts are doing across the state. And then the remainder of our time was spent with Suzanne Hirsch for the Mississippi School of the Arts. As you know, the way that they are able to operate has changed, and so she is having to redo their operations policy manual, and we got to look through a draft of that yesterday. It primarily relates to the changes primarily relate to human resources and fiscal management. And so we went through where she is working currently, and the rest of the manual will remain the same. But anyway, it was a draft yesterday. The final document will come to this board for adoption. And then she will put the procedures in place to follow along with the manual. So that's what we did.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Educator quality, Dr. Elam.
Yes, I think that, Dr. Wright's spotlight kind of took care of.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's very good. I would like to take this opportunity to say how much Brittany, Mrs. Rye, and I appreciate the opportunity to support the Office of Teaching and Learning. We certainly give our accolades to all that they have accomplished. And it's been shown now with the spotlight. I was very pleased for that to be shown today, to show you what all their initiatives are on teacher shortage, and we will keep pushing forward. And I appreciate the fact that the students really, at least you put it in that order, that the first thing that they identified was their concern about the lack of teachers, the shortage of teachers. I think that speaks highly of the students, too, that they recognize that that's fixing it's not going to do anything most likely for them, but that they're looking to the future, that they would like to see more teachers, better teachers, more AP teachers, all of which we support. As far as business we conducted, we mostly just chatted. We reviewed the consent item K that you will be approving today, I assume, and then look forward to consent items or other agenda items that we'll be looking at the January meeting. So again, I congratulate the Office of Teaching and Learning.
Thank you. Mr. Suggs, Workforce, Career, and Technical Education.
Yes, we had a very productive meeting yesterday, Dr. Oakley and the team. Obviously, the hot topic for us is the Perkins and state plan and allocation for secondary and post-secondary allotment. And I'll just let everyone know that we think we're making progress. We are still under understanding the current situation with our stakeholders and the public opinion on this topic. So we're still in the data collecting process. And based on some of the preliminary data that we've received, we're coming up with some different scenarios and plans on how things could potentially work. So I just want to let you know it's still a work in progress. We know it's a pretty hot topic right now. And our goal and objective is at the January meeting to share some more detailed information on status and our key next steps. Dr. Oakley or Dr. Dean, anything that you guys want to highlight that I may have missed?
No, just affirm really what you were saying, and obviously this has been a pretty hot topic for board members and for the staff here, and we're listening to the public comment. And to your point, I think the APA just ended yesterday, so it's not on our agenda this month, but it will be in January. And there's a process that flows in which this Perkins plan is due to the U.S. Department of Ed in I think February or April. So as we start 2020, we'll be talking a lot more publicly about the position that we're finally going to take with regards to the new and improved Perkins plan. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Last subcommittee's mine, the legislative subcommittee. Dr. Elam, Mr. Suggs, and myself met with Pete this morning for about 45 minutes. Obviously, the regular session will begin in a few weeks. New leadership, out with the old, in with the new kind of mentality. We kind of, again, committed ourselves to what our top priorities are going to be. And kind of in a particular order, the MSIS system upgrade, I think, is vital. Everything comes from data-driven decision-making, and, getting good data is, critical. So the MSIS $3.5 million upgrade will be top of mind. The early childhood education program, $9.9 million. We think that's going to get a lot of attention. A lot of the folks who've been elected to high office over there have been supportive of this and want to see our program expanded. I asked the question, is there something new? Is there something different? No, it's this program that's been effective. And we hope, I think you'll see a lot of attention on that. And so that's number 2 at $10 million. I think the number's a little low. I think we should ask for more, but we'll get into that later. The third topic that we're asking, the third issue is the Literacy-Based Promotion Act. Clearly, a lot of this data that's coming back on particularly around the 4th grade reading scores with NAEP, I think can be pointed a lot to the effects of that program. So it's a $16 million request specific to that. And then around the whole teacher recruitment and retention, and I include the teacher pay raise in that. Again, if anybody's paying attention to politics, everybody over there is saying there needs to be another teacher pay raise from the governor, lieutenant governor, and speaker. That's good. That's one thing that they're seemingly agreeing upon, but how much, how long, I think that's where the issues will be fought out. Relatedly, we talked about our work with IHL to try and get some technical amendments around the multiple critical teacher shortage programs that exist out there. There's a lot. There's 4 or 5 of them. Been around for a long time, but maybe consolidating those into one coherent program. And we've asked Pete to add a fiscal note to what an increase for those programs would look like. So that's kind of new for the board, but we'll present that in January. But to y'all's point, teacher recruitment and retention is clearly, on everybody's mind. It's critical, for the future of the education system. And we went over a lot of technical amendments, and we also talked about promoting the Achievement School District progress. Don't know that, we know the results yet to be able to say, look how great it is. We hear anecdotally, qualitatively, a lot of great stories coming out of the 2 districts that have been incorporated. But as that begins to show results, we will hopefully make this a big legislative priority in the 2021 regular session. So I think I covered everything. You guys got anything?
Good.
Okay.
I have one
Yes,
more
ma'am.
report. Since I sat through this meeting all day, I want to give my report. I was the board representative on the Accountability Task Force meeting. Alan Burrows did a great job in explaining all the iterations of the state accountability system through the years, but and how it drives districts and district behavior, and the fact that our proficiency rates indicate that the accountability system is working. But the big discussion was about the U.S. history test.
Yeah.
And Dr. Domaleski led that discussion. And the questions were, what are the options, what are the implications, and what happens to the baseline? So in the end, they adopted their adoption was that should the state board decide to eliminate the U.S. history test, that the 50 points that are in question would go to the 50 points that are typically attached to the U.S. history test would go to science. But there's a lot of discussion and a lot of other decisions that have to be made before we get there. And then their other discussion was around growth expectations. Some of the task force felt that they were too rigorous. There was too much required, and somewhere between 3A and 3B on the scale, that there was too many demands in that area for the students to grow, to go to 4 and 5. And anyway, so I had to leave before there was any discussion, any decision made on that. But it was a good day and a lot of discussion.
Thank you for bringing up the U.S. history piece. I failed to mention that in my report. My understanding is that the 50-point redistribution to science is out for public comment, so we'll get a report back in January.
No.
No,
correct?
is it going? That was
Not
one
yet.
of the discussions, was
Not yet.
would it have to go back to public comment since it was?
Would you, Dr.
We're all
Vanford, just
looking
give us an
around like we
update.
don't
We're on
know.
the timeline mostly for the U.S. history. When will we make a decision?
Make
as a
sure you
board?
speak into the mic.
So the APA that was completed was strictly the question of whether or not to eliminate the U.S. history test or not. That has been completed. Now the task force has a recommendation of where those points would go. So we can resubmit the item for APA for public comment if that's the board's pleasure, to determine whether or not that's what the field or stakeholders would like to see. But there's been no action taken for us to submit the APA process yet.
So we'll vote in January
Yes.
on the issue of the U.S. history, and if we choose to then replace it with the 50 points, then you do APA, and then that's another vote 2 months later.
That's correct, if that's the board.
Okay, so we'll expect to vote on the U.S. history in January.
Right.
Okay? That's very critical. I'm sorry, Dr. Vanford, on the question of the growth, 3A, 3B, was there any decision or outcome of that?
No, there was not
Just
a
discussion?
decision made, but there's continuing discussions, and there was quite a bit of impact data that was requested, so it's an ongoing conversation.
Yeah. You have anything? You good? Okay. Everybody good? All right. Thank you all. Now we'll move into the meat of the meeting, the discussion and approval of board items. Number one is information, spring 2019 ACT results. Dr. Vanderford. And I believe you have a handout in your package, guys.
Good morning. We will present the item, information item for the spring 2019 ACT results in 2 parts. Dr. Oakley will begin by providing you the ACT spring results for 2019, and then I will conclude with a brief summary of an investigation that was conducted by the Center for Assessment related to the 2018 ACT score declines nationwide. So at the TAC meeting that Dr. Wright referenced earlier, we actually had the author of the investigative report, Dr. Leslie King, present, and he provided a very detailed overview of the technical report, and so we're going to just condense that and give you some information regarding that at the conclusion of the presentation.
Thank you, Paula. So as we look at our ACT results, this does fit in with our accountability model, as you know, as was shared earlier by Omar in his comments about our Student Advisory Council. And this does directly align with the vision and mission and goals of the department, particularly as we look at Goal 1, Goal 2, and Goal 6. We see it fitting in very closely in those areas. So as we dig through today, we're going to look at ACT results from the 18-19 school year, both for our junior class administration as well as for the graduating class of 2019.
And board members, you have a copy of this PowerPoint in your yellow folder.
Thank you. So as a matter of background, ACT is an assessment that's given on demand, and it's really designed to get information to students to help them as they plan for future education and career opportunities. It's really a predictive measure of college readiness. It's not necessarily a content performance to give you a sense of how much algebra or how much English 2 specific content. It's more holistic in nature and predictive in nature. We do get composite scores as well as individual subscores for English, math, reading, and science. We also get readiness benchmark scores that we'll look at in a moment. They provide a career interest inventory, and they also look closely at course-taking patterns and the impact of those on student outcomes with regard to readiness for college. First of all, we get scale scores on the ACT, and that really is a score range from 1 to 36. It's based on the number of correct answers in each of those 4 areas. And then the composite score is an average of those 4 subscores. And the ACT benchmarks that are recognized nationally are here at the bottom of the screen. You can see those 18 for English, 22 for math, 22 for reading, and 23 for science. And you can see the corresponding course on the left there, that those are really predictive assessments for entry into those credit-bearing courses for students. So let's look first at our grade 11 results. This was the junior class from last year. This is our current seniors, if you're tracking where these students are now. So when we look at our 11th graders for the 18-19 school year, you can see on the right-hand side the most recent information. And you can go down to the bottom right, first of all, and you see a slight dip, 0.2 of a point, in the composite score for our junior class. Science remained steady, and we saw slight declines in reading, math, and English. You can track back across. You'll also notice over the last couple of years we've seen a decline in the number of students tested each year, and that holds pretty comparable with what we're seeing in our overall statewide population. So that's not necessarily a surprise to us. As we look at the percentage of students in 11th grade that met the college readiness benchmarks during their 11th grade year, you can see stronger performance in the English composition and the social science side, and then the weaker areas in college algebra and biology. And then on the far right, you can see we held steady with the percentage of juniors that met all 4 benchmarks at 9%. So as I mentioned a moment ago, fewer students tested in 19 than the prior year. We also noted, and this has been a steady trend, that where we have students who are taking more rigorous courses earlier in their high school years, that their performance on the ACT is better, as you would expect. If I've gotten the mathematics content out of the way and complete, and moved into more advanced English and science courses by my junior year, then I'm better prepped to take that assessment and get a higher composite score. We did see composite scores generally flat or declining for subgroups, with the exception of the Asian subgroup. And of the 141 districts that were reported, we had 85 districts with a slight increase in score, 46 with a slight decline, and 10 with no change. So look at our graduating class. This would be the seniors of 2019 who would have been in the previous charts as juniors in 17-18. So look at our seniors, both for the private and public side together. ACT reports this data out to us 2 different ways. We get it public-private all together, and then we also get it public only. And we'll look at both data sets this morning. You can see, again, a slight drop from the prior year in the number of students tested, slight decline in English and mathematics, as well as science. Reading held steady from the prior year, but a slight decline from the prior year in the composite score for our graduating class, public and private together. When we look at our public schools only, we see similar trends there, decline by 0.2 of a point in our public schools only for the senior class that graduated in 2019. So we start to look at the subscore breakdown for our graduating class of this past year. Again, this is public and private together. You can see similar trends to what we saw with our juniors, better performance in the courses that feed into English Comp and to social sciences, and then more work to be done really in college algebra and biology, in the algebra and in the science section, science reasoning section of the ACT. But up from, if you think back just a minute ago, we looked at a 9% college readiness rate for all 4 subtests for our juniors. For our senior class, that bumped up to 12%. So we had additional 3% of students that between their junior and senior year bumped their composite score to the point, or bumped their subscores to the point that they met all 4 readiness subscores on the ACT by the end of their senior year. So we drill down public only. Similar trends, very percent here or there difference. We're at a 10% overall rate on percentage of students meeting all 4 ACT benchmarks in our public schools. We are seeing flat or slight downward trends over the last 3 years. They're not highly significant, but we are seeing this trend, and we got concern about that. It's one of the reasons that we're going to dig into in just a few minutes some of the analysis that's been done by the National Center, because Mississippi is not the only state in this position, and we're looking closely at what's happening here and in other states, particularly in light of NAEP results, MAP results, grad rates. All of these data points that we're analyzing as a state are moving in a single direction, with the exception of ACT. And so it's giving us pause.
Can I just ask
Yes,
two quick questions before you get into the national portion of it? So according to the information we have, this benchmark or college readiness score, it says from August 2013. That's the baseline data for the benchmark data. Is there not any more recent than 6 years old?
So the benchmark scores are set by ACT, and they set those periodically, and we work from the most recent benchmark that they have set.
So the last one was 6 years ago. We're still using that same.
That's
okay.
when we use whatever ACT
They
puts
give
out.
us.
That's
Okay.
exactly right.
Got it. And I know this is really fresh, but it would be nice to see how these scores kind of correlate with A districts, et cetera. It would be nice to see the correlation there.
The
if any.
composite scores
Yeah, if any.
laid against the overall district
It
performance.
would be nice to see the district performance as well.
Okay.
Okay.
We could add that to
That
a
should be
column of data. I'm sure that we've got, just add that to a column of data you've already got. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Question, Nathan, do we have a way to track junior first-time test takers? That's the first time that they take the ACT? The reason I ask that is that there's a, you can guarantee a multiple point, not guarantee, but there's a multiple point gain for students who have taken that multiple times. Our board and Dr. Townsend afforded us the opportunity to fund testing 10th graders. So just as a best practice out there, and again, there's some funding associated with it, to give those students multiple opportunities at high-stakes tests, as a state will move us forward in terms of more quickly than other things. The next thing I'd say that best practice is next higher level electives. If you can get them to take those next higher level electives, the ACT themselves will put out the data that say you got about a 3-point gain by doing that. So there's some best practices that are pretty solid that from a state level, if we get some data on first-time junior test takers and encourage that, then we'd be moving.
And we also are encouraging districts to use the ACT fee waivers. There are waivers available for students to be able to take the ACT, particularly if they're coming from poverty or in a Title I school setting, that they can take it, and there's not a significant cost involved there, like you would see with a regular Saturday assessment.
So slides 16 through 25 are excerpts from the summary that was provided by Dr. Leslie King, who authored the investigative report. And so we'll just walk through at a very high level.
Let me just back up one second, just to provide a little bit more context to this. When the ACT results came out and crashed basically nationally, there were several chiefs that expressed concern about this, Louisiana taking the lead, because the data weren't making sense to them. So CCSSO had a convening of all the state chiefs around this issue. ACT was there and present, as well as the chiefs, saying we're concerned about this. ACT hired the Center for Assessment then to conduct an analysis of what has gone on. What is the problem? Can you dig down inside? So this wasn't something that the center just decided to do. This was something ACT asked the center to do. So what we're showing you now are pieces of that report, so you can understand a little bit about what the concern is nationally around the current ACT assessment. I'm sorry, Paula.
And so, to Dr. Wright's point, the slide 17 shows you the list of census states that administer the ACT statewide to a particular group of students. Like in Mississippi, it's to all juniors, and you can see the score decline. And as Dr. Wright stated, as a result, a few states expressed concerns and asked ACT for a more in-depth explanation. So the center's involvement, as previously stated, they were contacted by ACT, and then ACT contracted with the Center for Assessment to provide an independent review of the score decline in the census states on the previous slide. And the center worked with ACT's research and psychometric team to gather data. The project took place between June and October of 2019 with a report that was released in early November. And so the center gathered data from ACT through materials and documentation that they requested, and then ACT provided, as well as a series of webinars. So the center's involvement was to identify possible explanations for a change in the observed score declines, and to make recommendations to ACT as well as other states to uncover or confirm explanations for these score declines, and then finally to suggest changes to ACT's existing processes and procedures that could detect any potential sources of error in the data. So they first examined the procedures that had been established by ACT, and they investigated whether the implementation irregularities could have contributed to the score decline in multiple states across the nation. And then they evaluated the contextual factors related to the test-taking populations. So the overarching question in the investigation was the center able to conclusively link the score decline to any current methods or procedures that were used by ACT? And the answer to that is no. However, the center in this process did uncover several issues of concern that may have contributed to the score decline, and found many other issues of concern that should be addressed by ACT. So this next slide just very briefly outlines some of the issues, the first being the validity of the ACT scale. And so the question here is the ACT scale that was established more than 30 years ago under a different testing context, is that scale still valid 30 years later? They looked at the robustness of the equating procedures and whether or not this was invariant to the change in test-taking populations observed over recent years. And so based on the data that ACT provided, there has been a year-to-year change in the population of students that are now taking the ACT. They also raised questions around the equating methods and whether they're relevant and based on a clear and consistent definition of the target population. So ACT defines a target as the national population when they're looking at sampling for the equating process. The center had a concern because over interviews with multiple staff at ACT, they got a different definition of how you define the national population. They also looked at specifications and technical documentation, and the center identified important gaps in the specifications and the technical documents for several key steps in ACT standard operating procedures. ACT does produce technical reports periodically, but the reports do not include detailed information about the technical quality of the assessment and other important sources of validity and reliability evidence. So the implementation outcomes, the center did not observe official records of outcomes from key steps of the annual test development, data processing, or psychometric procedure. So there was a concern related to that area as well. And then finally, the context effects focus on the focus of the center's investigation was on ACT processes and procedures and whether they could have made a contribution to the score declines in several of the states. So the bottom line is that the center did uncover several issues that may have contributed to the score decline associated with the primary form that was administered in Louisiana, and also in several other census states. And while the differences are not significant in terms of the effect sizes, the pattern of declines across the states is hard to dismiss. So in other words, the center is very concerned. And they made several recommendations that ACT should pursue additional analyses to improve its documentation to ensure that scores provided to students are as valid as possible, or make changes to their process. So some of the near-term recommendations for ACT is to provide regular and complete documentation of evidence of the score validity, including the use in the census states, and to conduct additional analyses of the forms and their use in the equating cycle, and to publish existing invariant study for further review, and to document transparently given the use of the state test. So the recommendations that they provided for us as census states is to interpret the score declines with caution until we have more evidence of score invariance. And we need ACT to provide a more complete evidence of score invariance for the form that's in question that Louisiana raised in its concerns, and the annual technical documentation with complete evidence of validity of scores and their use in the state context, and to partner with ACT on data sharing and building bodies of evidence of score validity. So this is, as I stated earlier, a very high-level overview of a very technical report of it. Many, I think all of leadership and assessment staff and Alan have read the report. The report's available. We'll be happy to provide that to you upon request. And then, of course, this is just excerpts from a very lengthy presentation that was provided at TAC, but we felt it was important that the board knew that we had received this report in early November and share some of the scores because, some of the concerns, because as Dr. Oakley stated in his presentation, we're wanting to see the indicator move in the opposite direction of which it's moving. So naturally, we're concerned that we have to report a decline even though it is insignificant.
And one of the key pieces I think that was discussed at the TAC meeting, which was really significant, they normed this test on a population 30 years ago. And you and I both know that the United States population is very different now than it was 30 years ago in terms of demographics. And that was one of the key pieces that was brought up by the center, that's something that really needs to be looked at. If you're norming on something, to norm on a population from 30 years ago versus the demographics of the United States today is very different. So we're going to be following this. We're following this nationally because CCSSO is very much involved in this. Because a lot of these states that you saw up there are all census states, and a lot of these states use these data in their accountability models. So we want to make sure that we're getting reliable and valid data on which to make good decisions. Thank you.
Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Just as a point of curiosity, do we know if every school district, every high school, for example, that if they offer an ACT prep opportunity, a class, either a class or an opportunity for students? Do most all high schools offer that?
So it is relatively common. There's a course code for it. I don't know how
Yeah.
many schools are offering it, but I can run that from MSIS and find out what percentage or how many are using that course code.
Well, there's a real strategy to taking the ACT, so it would behoove them to prepare their students as well as they can to get ready for it.
One question,
Curious.
that'd be great to see that, and it kind of leads me to my question, and, statistics can be, troublesome things. I'm looking for the the district by district, school by school rankings, and I've seen them in the past couple of years, and it's always a remarkable experience to see the disparity in districts, 3 and 4 points sometimes, and that's always an asterisk for that push out there to use the ACT as, the state test or, whatever. be cautious. You know, there's some significant disparities that are a lot easier to understand. So I guess that's kind of the question about the decline that we see in this year. You know, do you see that across the board? You know, because the student achievement gap is profound, you know, in the state, and you know, we can chase that rabbit. But are we seeing those districts that are not performing, you know, anywhere close to, you know, the average, are they getting worse, or is it across the board? In other words, are the ones that are performing 18 or better getting better, while those that are, you know, in the 14, 15 level getting much worse? And then you know, if that's 70% of the population, statistics will drag that down. So, I mean, I think we can get more granular and focused on where the problems are. If that's the case, I haven't seen it, so I don't know that that's in fact the case. But any thoughts on that?
I think if we put together what you had asked for around the ACT, what Mr. Suggs asked for, that will provide you with some information that you're looking at by district, by school, and then we can also add that column for grade so that you'll be able to see. And maybe we could do that over the past 3 years, right, Alan?
Do remember also that in the accountability system, we have a college and career readiness component that reports whether or not students are meeting benchmark, and that's already in the accountability system. But to get more granular, we can do average ACT score by school.
I really like how y'all do the heat map, you know, on the student achievement gap. Almost, you know, if you did multiple years, you know, and showed these districts are in red because they're decreasing. I just think that, you know, then we can focus the resources in the policy to help support them.
We can do that.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions on this? All right, guys, thanks. Number 2 is the.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Kelly. Yes, sir.
Question for the presenter and for Dr. Wright. I know some school districts actually fund their students taking at least one ACT test, and I'm wondering, are we seeing any increases in that around the state? That's the first question. The second question is, I'm wondering what kind of a platform can MDE provide for the district where there would be opportunities for sharing best practices around this issue, the ACT testing. We know that those districts that are really doing well seem to be exceeding in this area, have best practices in place. I'd love to see us provide a platform so that every school district in the state would at least have access to it, whether they took advantage of it or not.
It's a good suggestion.
Okay.
An interesting aside, the entire state of California's IHL system is giving consideration to the elimination of accepting ACT or SAT scores, period, for college entrance. Mm-hmm.
Do you just show up?
Well, I'm assuming there's a transcript. I think what they're saying is that they're not going to.
If you go to college?
No, I think the transcript piece is still going to be there, but I think what they're saying is that we're not going to be using ACT and SAT as one of the criteria.
There are a number of post-secondary institutions and individual institutions that have eliminated the ACT or SAT or entrance requirement as a part
And
of your
depending on where
application.
you live in the United States, depends on the assessment that's of
Correct.
privilege. So in the Northeast, it's all SAT, and in the South, it's all ACT. So it really does depend on where you live.
There's actually a lot to be said about that high stakes college entrance test as sort of the one all be all.
Right.
I mean, that's just, it's not the whole story, I can tell you.
Right.
Okay. Well, thanks.
Thank you.
We'll move on to now Dr. Gavin, action item approval of MDE contracts. We'll cover A, B, C, D, and E in this one. Dr. Gavin.
Hey, good morning. We have 5 contracts coming before you this morning for approval. Items 2A and B are both centered around services related to Braille textbooks and instructional material production. Item 2C is a modification to add 1 more position to the Guide South contract. And item 2D is to actually renew the contract starting in January of 2020 going through 2021. And then the last item, item 2E, is to approve the extension of the employment agreement with the interim superintendent for Knoxville County School District.
Any questions from the board members on these contracts? Okay, need a motion then to approve?
So move.
Motion. Second?
Second.
Okay, all right. So is there any discussion? Okay, and Dr. Kelly, I will ask for you to vote where we can hear. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
You, Dr. Kelly?
Sorry, Dr. Kelly, could you tell us your vote, please?
Aye.
Okay. All right, now we'll move to item 3. Also, Dr. Gavin, these are A, B, and C.
Yes, we're requesting approval for 3 grants. Item 3A is just a modification to an existing grant. We need to include the increase in PERS for that particular grant. Item 3B is to award competitive grants for the 21st century. And then item 3C is the MCOPS. We're seeking approval for MCOPS grant.
Okay, any discussion on these 3 grants? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve item 3A, 3B, and 3C?
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second? Second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll move to the number 4, approval of appointment of a financial advisor for Wayne County.
Yes, as Dr. Wright indicated, the Office of the State Auditor has deemed Wayne County's financial condition as a state of emergency. As a result, we do need to appoint a financial advisor to the district.
Okay, any discussion? I have a question. Do we know who it is?
We have not found an advisor yet. As of
We'll do
right
a
now, I'm
search and
serving in that
hire.
role until Dr. Wright appoints one.
Y'all can hire them immediately. They don't need to come
That's
back.
what this
Yes,
approval is
this,
for.
it says appoint,
Just to be
correct.
clear, once you find them, they'll be in position. Okay?
And we're doing that based on the current situation, but there won't, is it a year contract? Is it how will that work when we find someone? What would be that process?
It's a really good question, because as much work as they've got to do.
Yeah,
sounds like
it's
gonna be
not, it
longer than a
doesn't,
year.
it's not defined by a particular, basically, the Office of the State Auditor and the State Board of Education has to decide and be in agreement when we're in a position to release the district back financially.
But, this is way more than we need to be involved in, but it would stand to reason that it's not just a until contract. Could it end like in the fiscal year, June 30th, and start July 1? I mean, just so it's not an open, so we can see to make sure that that person's, ensuring that they're doing the job that's going to be required.
Yes, the contract itself will have a start and an end date, correct, with some clauses for renewal.
But they will start as soon as you find them, they can start right away.
Yes.
I think
It's our hope.
Okay.
Since
'Cause right
Dr.
now, that's
Gavin is
me, and
serving
that's-
as the interim financial advisor,
So we need to find them in
yes.
short order.
Under state law, they have a requirement to report frequently to the state board on the progress that's happening.
Okay, great.
All righty. Other discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve item 4?
So move.
Is there a motion second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
No opposed. Motion carries. All right, next we'll move into the consent agenda. Items A, B, C, D, E, F, G's pulled, H, I, J's pulled, K, L, M, N on the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve those I just mentioned?
I move for approval of the consent agenda. That's what you're waiting on.
I know that there's a lot. I assume everybody's trying to read through it. Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, with the motion with the second, any further discussion on consent agenda items? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's hard with this iPad, man. We're scrolling and trying to figure out what to look at. And I may be reading this wrong, so I apologize in advance. But on the, this is for the
Item what?
Office of Safe and Orderly Schools.
Which item is it, Mr. Sykes?
It is item J, I guess? No. I. H-I.
I is the-
Harrison County,
Oh, those are the two new school sites.
yes. I just had a quick question.
Sure.
It says, hold on here, to approve the, okay, I think I have my answer. Sorry.
This is one of those, to be honest with you, this is
think I
one of
may have
those
figured it out.
crazy laws that we have, because we really have no authority over Harrison County, but for whatever reason, the board has to approve every new school site.
I'm thinking it's an Office of Safe and Orderly Schools, but how can you approve a safe and orderly without no site or any construction or anything? That was my real question.
That's a good one.
There's a division of school buildings and facilities.
Inside
In the order of safe and orderly
Okay,
schools.
okay.
That, ensures that they know all the building codes and the fire codes and.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
Good question.
That's a good question.
All right.
Great question. Okay, any further discussion on consent agenda items? Okay, and we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, hearing no opposition, motion carries. And I'm about to shock the world. We have no executive session.
No, we do not.
So y'all ain't got to leave. All right. We'll move to now State Board of Ed report. Any reports on meetings attended in the last 30 days? Anybody? Okay. Do we have a request for approval of any meetings in the next 30 days? All right. Hearing none, then we'll move to other. What? Other business? Okay. All right. We have a couple of date changes for our summer meetings to try and accommodate schedules. So in our other business, we need a motion to approve the regularly scheduled budget meeting from the State Board of Ed that was on Wednesday. The 17th will be changed to Wednesday, June 10th, 2020 at 2 p.m. Motion to change our budget meeting back a week from June 17th to June 10th.
Motion.
Motions or second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Second is approval of the regularly scheduled State Board of Education meeting on Thursday, June 18th, 2020, to be changed to Thursday, June 11th, 2020. Need a motion and a second. Is there, get the
I'll
motion?
make the,
There's a motion from
Yeah.
Ms. Altman and a second from Ms. Rye. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, can I get somebody to send those dates over to me, please?
Absolutely,
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Kelly, we'll take care of it.
Okay, and third, I'm sorry? Yeah, Dr. Kelly, can we record your vote in the affirmative on those three, or those two?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, third action, approval of work session of the State Board of Education on Wednesday, June 10th at 8:30 a.m. for the purpose of interviewing the student representative finalist. Any discussion? Okay, need a motion?
so
I
move.
so move, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion. Ms. Altman has the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Finally, the January board meeting will be held here, January 16th, 2020, beginning at 10 a.m. Motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion to
Second.
adjourn with the second. Any discussion? Here none? All-
Merry Christmas.
See you on-
No.